What's going on, guys? Another edition of Connor and Mark's show here on YouTube. Make sure you click that subscribe button to keep up with all our content. Also, follow us on Twitter and Instagram at Connor and Mark Show. Today, we're talking about a little bit about the Phillies and their previous series against the San Francisco Giants. As now they're going to hit the road and take on the Colorado Rockies. Also, we'll segue in later into the clip about the NFL draft coming up. Right now, we're recording this on Thursday night, so we're about 1 week away from the NFL draft. As we're recording this right now, it's basically just exactly a week away because I believe the first round will begin right around 7, 8 o'clock. So a big week for the Eagles and the NFL as a whole. So it's going to be very exciting. Mark, how you doing, man?
Good, man. We are a week away, and I can't believe it. It's almost the end of April here, and the draft coming up. A lot of time for potential moves and teams to swap picks here. I know we're going to dive into it a little bit after some Phil's talk, but we got a good segment today, Connor. We got a little buy or sell action
Yes,
where
we
we're
do.
going to ask each other 3 questions in a buy or sell format and get ourselves into the draft mood here. So, but we're going to kick it off with some Phil. So I'll throw it back to you and we'll get started.
Yeah, and obviously the Phillies, who dropped the first two against the San Francisco Giants, came away with the win with a walk-off Andrew Knapp single to score Bryce Harper, and they found a way to salvage the series and not get swept by the Giants. And there's a lot to take away, obviously, from the first two games. The bullpen struggles came back a little bit from the previous season, and obviously Connor Brogdon struggled the second game, and but really they turned around the third game. They obviously the Giants came back once again, but the Phillies persevered and found a way to win. But there's obviously, as of right now, they're about to hit the road against Colorado Rockies, who are one of the worst teams in the MLB. They're going in 500. I think this is a huge series for them to at least take 2 out of 3, if not sweep this, because this could be a game changer. And as we're about to set in stride from the full marathon it is the MLB season, this is going to be a pretty big series. And we talk about the Phillies' woes on the road. They're going to set a precedent of we're going to turn this around after the first two series they had on the road and start winning some games, because if you really want to be a playoff team, you're gonna have to find a way to win some games on the road, because it's vital, especially down the stretch. I know we're only in the back end of April. There's a lot more baseball to be played, but it's a good thing to set the tone here, and the Phillies need to set the tone here in Colorado.
Yeah, and it was a tough series. I mean, like you said, they salvaged the one of the three, but Giants came in. They're a good team, and coming in now they're 11-6 on the season. Came in with some guys that can hit. They got Crawford, LaStella, some names down that lineup, and they got some good pitching. The first game of the series, Phillies couldn't really find a way to get the bats going and lost there 2-0. But like you said, the bullpen came back to the woes a little bit like last year. Brogdon had a tough inning there. I personally think after that, the first three-run home run he gave up, he should have just got pulled there. He's a young guy, and he's still working through, these tough MLB hitters. So, maybe go to JoJo Romero or someone else there in that spot where you don't allow another two guys on base and another home run. But they came out the other day, and a big guy that I want to point out here in this series was Bryce Harper. He went 8 for 10 in the series, and that's, when you got him hitting like that, he's hot. And you had Hoskins, who went deep, and Harper had the home run and the RBI. So good win yesterday, and like you said, they got to get this record going up in the right direction on the road. No better team to do it here against the Rockies, and the bats looked pretty good as of yesterday. So hopefully they can carry this in to Colorado and steal a sweep here on the road.
Yeah, and like I said, the bats are, a little bit of hit or miss in my opinion, but Bryce Harper is off to a fantastic start here for the Phillies. It really looks like his MVP year to start, like in comparing to 2015 when he was with the Washington Nationals. But he's batting 357, on base percentage of 493, and he's slugging a 625. I believe he has 4 home runs on the year, to be exact, 3 or 4. But
4, yep.
he has 4 home runs, so he's really off to a hot start. And I think, like we said with Alec Bohm, he's batting at 219 right now, but I think he's making solid contact with the ball. And I think just really, as of right now, it's just not the bounces aren't really going his way. I think he'll start picking it up. I think he'll probably, get close to, 260 by the end of the month. I think that he has a lot of talent, and we know that from Alec Bohm. And you're looking for other guys to step up, like Andrew McCutcheon, who's batting 164. Rhys Hoskins now batting 239. But other than that, I mean, the main guys need to really step up here. JT Realmuto's obviously had a pretty good start. He's batting 288 with a 403 on base percentage. He's been pretty good, but We got the bank on these younger guys like Matten at shortstop. He's been surprisingly pretty good so far, and that has been obviously a huge shock. I didn't really know a lot about him. I know he played pretty well in spring ball, but he's batting 417. To start off his really young career. Mickey Moniak got his first home run of his career the other day. I knew that was pretty exciting for a lot of people to see because obviously he's the number one overall pick, a high touted prospect who's been sluggish his start of his major league career or his professional career, and to see him show some of the tools that the Phillies front office saw when they drafted him in 2016 is pretty exciting. So do I think he's really ready for Major League Ball? I don't. I think he's still a little bit overwhelmed. I think he struggles a lot against lefty pitchers. But as of right now, as it currently stands with the outfield that they have, that he needs to play right away because with Hazley out and Roman Quinn not hitting at all, it's a big shoes for him to fill. But I think he's the best guy for it as of right now. But Matten's pretty interesting because now with Gene Segura heading to the 10-day IL and Didi Gregorius, I don't know when he's going to be back. I think he's going to be back before Gene will be. But you're going to see him a lot at second base. And if he can come in and, find a way to, get some pretty big at bats in and find a good role, he's athletic. He's pretty fast. He's pretty good defensively too. So I think he can find a role on this team. And I think he can stay with the big club for the rest of the year too, because I don't know. I don't think they'd send him down just to get him more at bats. I think that they'd rather have him on there as a utility guy over like a Scott Kingery, for example. But I really like him so far. I think he's finding a way to get on base, and there's a lot of potential there. I think for the Phillies as well. So with Gene Segura obviously going to the 10-day IL, I think there's a room for Matten to finally go out and get some meaningful at bats. So.
Yeah, and I think that's a great point. I also did want to touch on the bench and a blast from the past a little bit here. Brad Miller, who was here 2 years ago, comes back this year. He's 10 games played, 19 at-bats, and he's looking pretty good in the at-bats he's been given. Looks like he's batting 417 right now. Or I'm sorry, 368. That's Matten. He's batting 368, and in the opportunities he's been given, he's gotten on base, and that's what this Phillies team needs. They have a lot of pop in this lineup. You got guys like Hoskins, Real Muto, obviously Harper we've touched on, even Bohm. And if you can get guys on base and get depth production here, this team can be very lethal in a very tough NL East division. And I can't not mention here Andrew Knapp, a good he showed good signs last year and being a backup catcher, but now he's getting some more time here and Real Muto and him are switching off. He obviously had the walk-off hit yesterday. So again, if you can get productions, and especially Matt in only 3 games played, and he's raised some eyebrows early here, if they get more opportunities, I think this team with depth can be a lethal and a very good team, heading here, like you said, into the marathon of the MLB season.
Yeah, here's an interesting stat that I just came across. Philadelphia is 5-1 in their last 6 games when its opponent scores 5 or more runs in its previous game. That's a pretty interesting stat. Also, Colorado's 0-5 in its last 5 Friday games. So I don't know how much stock you put into that. I just stumbled across it on the internet. So I was like, let me just throw it in there, see if it sticks.
That's a good stat.
Yeah, but like you said too, getting guys on base for Bryce Harper is huge because he's raking. This is probably the best I've seen him. Definitely in his Phillies career, maybe his MLB career. And these guys in front of him, Andrew McCutchen and Rhys Hoskins, they got to find a way to get on base more and get him some runners because he should have a lot more RBIs, I think, this year. But he's just not getting the support from the guys around him. So I'll throw this question to you before we move off this Phillies topic and get into predictions of the Colorado series. But would you possibly switch up, that 1 and 2 spot? Because I know McCutchen's struggling a little bit, and I know Rhys Hoskins is cooled down a little bit after his hot start. And if you would switch it up, who would you throw in there?
Yeah, I mean, I personally think right now Rhys Hoskins needs to be moved from the 2 spot in the lineup. I just don't think he's the type of hitter we're looking for. In a right now with Didi on the DL, unfortunately, and not knowing exactly when his return is going to be, I would put Didi in the 2 spot. It seems like he's been getting on base a good amount this year. It looks like he even has some pop in his bat this year. I know he's off to a good start with 10 RBIs, and in that 3 spot. In that 1 spot for McCutchen, I don't know exactly who I would put there right now. It's kind of tough to say. I don't think Bohm's a leadoff guy yet, but I don't know. I would even have to consider when Miller's playing the way he's been swinging the bat and his opportunities given, he might be a leadoff guy. But I think the biggest thing for this lineup to figure out is get someone in that 1-2 spot that can consistently get on base. And if Harper keeps up the way he's hitting, he's going to finish off the season with a ton of RBIs. But to throw it back to you, because that is an interesting question, and a question a lot of Phillies fans are probably looking the answer to. Who would you put in that 1-2 if you were to switch it?
I agree with you in the front about McCutchen at the one spot. I don't know who would fill in that role and be a productive on leadoff hitter. So as of right now, I'd probably just play a long game with McCutchen and keep him there, and maybe hopefully because it stinks with Gene Segura now going to the 10-day injured list, because now I think he would have been an interesting name to throw in there to lead off spot or number 2, because he's been off to a hot start. But
yeah, he is batting 333 as of now. So
yeah, Gene's still pretty good. So I would have probably debated him. So as of right now, I'll probably keep Kutch at number 1 spot, but I'd switch out Hoskins and put in Boom there. I think Boom would probably see a lot better pitches ahead of Harper, because they'll probably protect him and try and not get him on base and have more damage from Bryce Harper. So I think they're putting Boom with there. You can probably see better pitches being at number 2 spot, and obviously hits for contact, and I think he gets on base obviously a lot. So I think he'll be an interesting name there. So I'd probably go Kutch 1, Boom 2, and then Harper 3, JT 4, and then put Hoskins at 5 with DD at 6. I think that would be a pretty good. Or maybe even switch. Well, I don't know if I put Hoskins at 6, but I'd probably put Hoskins at 5 and DD at 6.
I would put Hoskins at 5. But real quick interesting point here on base percentage. Again, I know it's off to an early start, but Boom's at 618, DD's at 748, and JT's at 884. So interesting, question there. Would you consider maybe putting Real Muto in the 2 hole? But
I like him in that cleanup spot, I think. Even though he's not hitting in runners in scoring position well to start the year, I still like him there. And the thing is, I think Harper's perfect at that 3 hole.
Perfect. I would never move him. Yep.
Yeah, and I know there's a lot of people maybe throwing out the idea would you put him at the leadoff spot, because he did do that a little bit in Washington, but I wouldn't do it. So I think that the problem is there's a lot of guys. It's interesting to put where you would put Rhys Hoskins. He is for contact. He likes to extend. He's very patient. Likes to extend counts. Where would you put him there? I'd probably put him at the 5 spot, maybe and maybe help him get some of his pop back with the guys with runners in scoring position. But I don't know. It's a big question mark. It's something that Joe Girardi, obviously he gets paid the big bucks. He's have to make that decision. And it obviously hurts when you don't have Didi or Gene in the lineup as well. But hopefully these younger guys like Moniak and Matten can continue their little success run here and continue on the road in Colorado.
Yeah, and just the last point on that, I think Hoskins really gained his 2-spot identity there, just due to the amount of walks he took in the prior 2 seasons. But I feel like he's taken a bit of a different approach to the plate this year, which is resulting in some more strikeouts. But I think, like you were saying, the 5 hole would be good for him, because I don't think he's really looking to take as many balls this year. I think he's trying to make more contact and try to go deep, which is his type of game and the type of player he is.
Yeah, I agree. All right, so quick prediction before we move on to the NFL draft that will be going on next week. Vince Velasquez will be on the mound for the Phillies to start in Colorado, which is going to be a very exciting game to watch him pitch. I think this is going to be the first time for him pitching since he got booed off the field after walking 4 straight batters.
So, in the Mets game.
Yeah, so it's you never know what you're gonna get at Vince Velasquez, so it's gonna be a interesting game to watch. Also, I believe I think it'll be Nola then Anderson, if I'm correct. So I think those are gonna be the 3 pitchers in Colorado. So Mark, I'll throw a quick prediction to you. What do you think is gonna happen against the Rockies?
I think Vinny V has a good game. I think
really?
I do. I think the Phils come out and I think they win 2 or 3 in this one.
I agree. I don't think Vince Velasquez has a good game. I think they dropped the first one, but I think they win the next 2 in Colorado. I definitely think they take at least 2 or 3. They got a good chance to sweep them. So it's the offense has to come alive. I know it's hard to rely on the offense, especially with Didi and Gene Segura out. But I'm liking this start by Harper, man. I have to watch him every time he goes to the plate because you don't know what he's going to do. It's exciting. I believe his bat to or his barrel to ball ratio. I believe it's a statistics, an analytic statistic that they're talking about. It's the best of his career or something like that. So I had to find a specific stat, but he's playing at an all-time level here, and hopefully this continues throughout the season because sometimes when we see Bryce play, he's looks like one of the best players in the MLB, and sometimes he is peeling out towards first base and trying to hammer the ball, and he's striking out 2 times a game. So that's not what you want to see out of Bryce Harper, but it's very exciting to see the start he's on.
Most definitely. It is a MVP type start, but again, baseball is a very long season. And I think the biggest question of this Phillies team, as an entire roster is, off to this inconsistent kind of start at 9-9, where's going to be that time of where they really take off and get to those expectations of getting above a 500 team. This NL East is pretty tight as of right now. A lot of teams off to a bit of a rocky start, if you will. Phil sitting in second with the Mets in first, I believe. And they have a good opportunity here in Colorado to really take off. So with that, I think we're going to move into a little NFL draft.
You want to start with the buy or sell segment, or you just want to talk a little bit about the draft before we go into that?
I think we dive right into the buy or sell segment, and then we'll discuss it a little bit.
You want to lead the way? So
yeah, we'll lead the way. So introducing here, and I know I mentioned it here at the beginning of the show, Connor and I are going to ask each other 3 buy or sell questions regarding the draft. So I guess I'll start and buy or sell, Connor, that 6 quarterbacks go in the top 10.
6 quarterbacks go in the top 10.
Mm-hmm.
I'm going to buy that, which is funny because I wrote down a question that's pretty similar to what you just asked me. So we should have just vetted the questions we were going to ask each other before we start the show. But, yeah, I'm going to say buy because I think that there's going to be definitely going to be 3 quarterbacks in the first 3 picks. So you said how many quarterbacks in the top 10?
6. So that means essentially one team would have to trade up into the top 10 and take
6 in the top 10.
Mm-hmm.
I'm going to sell that actually because I got confused with 5.
I got you. So
I'm going to sell because I don't think what the 6th quarterback would be. What, Kyle Trask?
No, it'd be I don't think that would be 6. But I was saying if
because listen, Trevor Lawrence will be in the top 10. Zach Wilson will be in the top 10.
Fields.
Yeah, Fields, Mac Jones will be in the top 10. It looks like he's going to be
Trey Lance.
Trey Lance is probably going to be the top 10. I think someone will trade in and get him like right around that 8, 9, 10 range.
Mm-hmm.
But I don't think there'll be 6. I think Kyle Trask may be taking at like the back end in the first round, if not in the second round area. Yeah, I don't think that. I think there's going to be a lot of quarterbacks taken. I think there's going to be a lot of movement in the first 10 picks. I think it's going to be an exciting first round. 5 quarterbacks, yes. 6 quarterbacks, no. I'm going to sell.
All right, you're up.
All right, I'm going to skip. Okay, that's my first one. All right, I'm going to skip to this one and go to the heated rival in the NFC East, Mark. So will the Cowboys take an offensive player in the first round of the draft at number 10 or whenever they take one, if they trade in or out? So will they take an offensive player in the first round, buy or sell?
I'm going to buy here, and I'm sticking to my guns. I know on Saturday I have them taking Waddle, and I really can see something here of a potential trade of a Gallup or maybe a Cooper if they get the right asking price and maybe move or get another pick and they can pick a defensive player on the back end. But I think Jerry Jones, when it comes to SEC wide receivers and, just big time names on the offensive side of the ball, whether it's Kyle Pitts, whether it's Jalen Waddle, whether it's Devontae Smith, I think he's all offense, and he just paid his running back, or he just paid his quarterback rather, and his running back last year a ton of money. So I'm going to buy here, and I believe that they will take an offensive player at 10.
So you're buying on their stupidity is what you're saying?
Yes, I am.
That's big stock. You could make a lot of money. So all right, you go.
All right, yep. Next, buy or sell. Devontae Smith falls out of the top 15.
Ooh, the top 15? Oh, man. I'm going to look at top 15 is pretty steep. I've seen some mock drafts with him right around the 14-ish range. So that's actually a pretty good question. So we got the Patriots will be at 15, but I think they're going to trade up and they won't get a wide receiver. They got a lot of guys in free agency. The Vikings will take a wide receiver. Chargers, they probably won't take a wide receiver.
I don't think they will.
No. Eagles, I'm going to say sell that he's going to drop out because I feel like somebody would trade up and get him. But I saw today that his height and weight measurements came in, and he's super light. What is he, 160 or something like that?
Yeah, he is, dude. It's
really
scary.
Yeah, it's he's going to have to put on some weight, I think. And I know that he's super talented, and what we saw out of him at Alabama to win a Heisman Trophy is remarkable. So he's really talented, but it's pretty. That is a scary thing. I definitely think that Waddle and definitely Chase, and I think Waddle will be taking over him as well. I think that Smith will definitely be the third wide receiver taken in this draft. Um, Dropping out of the top 15. Um, I'm gonna sell on that. I just don't. I'm not there yet with him. I think that it's gonna be close. I think he'll be taken right around that 14, 15, 16 range. I just think that I think someone will trade up for him and get him. So I'm gonna say sell mark on he'll drop out of the 15.
All
right.
I like it.
Okay, so buy or sell mark. Micah Parsons will be the first defensive player taken on the first round in the NFL draft Thursday.
Ooh, I'm gonna buy that. I love that. I'm really high on Mika Parsons. I think he's a really good player coming out of Penn State. I know there's him sitting out last year that may lose some draft value. I think his pro day and what he ran, I think that's actually going to really help his value. I look as a sleeper at the Detroit Lions. I know a lot of people think they're going to go offensive, but I think there's just too many good wide receivers in the late first, second round that you can go out and get. And I think Dan Campbell, like I said on Saturday's show, is a big-time defensive guy. Again, there's going to be a lot of movement, I think, in this top 10, or not movement, but a potential big move. And I think Mika Parsons could find himself getting drafted within the top 10 picks.
All right, that sounds good. Are you up?
So I'm going to go here, and this is going to be a hit homer question here. And this is a big question here, Connor, so be careful on how you answer this. Buy or sell that the Eagles take a wide receiver?
Of course, my last question was the Eagles one too. But all right, so Eagles take a wide receiver. I'm going to sell. I don't think Howie Roseman takes wide receivers in the first round. I don't especially after taking one last year. I think he'll take a tackle before a wide receiver. I think he'd take a cornerback over a wide receiver. I think he'd take a defensive end over a wide receiver, even though I don't love a lot of the defensive end prospects, but that's what I think he'd do. I just don't think he'll take a wide receiver in the first round. I think he'd rather take a wide receiver in the second or the third round. It's going to be hard too if Jalen Waddle's on the board and you're looking right at him. I think that's an interesting prospect. He'll be a really good player. Someone can step right in and make a huge impact offensively. But I'm going to sell on the fact he's going to take a wide receiver. And there's a couple other names I think that he'd rather take. We'll dissect that after the segment when we take a deeper look into the draft. But I'm going to sell. I don't think he's going to take a wide receiver.
All
right. So final buy or sell. Buy or sell mark. The Steelers will end up with a running back at the name of Najee Harris out of Alabama, the 24th spot. Buy or sell that Najee Harris out of Alabama will be a Steeler by the end of the night.
A lot of hype around Najee Harris at 24, and yeah. I'm going to be a downer here, and I'm going to sell because I don't think that – or no, I'm sorry. I was thinking of a different question. I'm going to buy here. I think Najee Harris does go to the Steelers, but the part that I'm saying I'm going to be a downer on is I don't think Najee Harris is going to be as great as everybody thinks. Okay. He's obviously a really good talent, and at Alabama he broke records and was just unbelievable there, but the thing about Alabama last year is just that O-line was something else. I think when he gets in the NFL, it's going to be a different game. It's going to be a little faster. Everyone's going to be a lot bigger than what he was facing in college. You saw him really just shred tackles last year, and that seemed to really be his identity, hurdling. And I just think at the pro level, it's going to be a different game, and he's not going to have that O-line like he did at Bama. I may be completely wrong. Who knows? But I think he is going to be a Steeler because I think the Steelers definitely need some help in that running game, but I don't think he's going to be as good as everybody thinks he is.
Yeah, that's an interesting point you made about the offensive line because the Steelers' offensive line has gotten older. I believe they lost Michael Pouncey, who's a center. He retired this offseason, and I believe they lost Villanueva too, even though he had a down year this past year. That's another veteran offensive lineman that they lost. So their running game was a disaster last year. And I think they're going to try and patch up as much as they can for Ben Roethlisberger's final year, it looks like. So it's going to be interesting. I know that's been a popular name match with a team that needs a running back, but that's going to be another dynamic that'll be interesting to watch next Thursday. So transition, obviously.
Real quick, I don't mean to cut you off. Quick point. Another name to watch, though, for the Steelers. If they don't go Najee Harris, I think they would definitely look at ETN from Clemson. Yeah, I think ETN's personally going to be a better back in the NFL. I think he's just more elusive. I think he's a little bit quicker between the blocks rather than Harris. He's more of a wider kind of fullback build, I would say. Obviously not that wide as a fullback, but I just think ETN's a little more elusive. And I think he might go off the board before Harris, but we'll see. And who knows? He might even fall to the second round, and the Steelers might find him in their lap there. So it's going to be an interesting night in the second round for sure.
It will be. So we're transitioning obviously into the next part of obviously the NFL draft, dissecting more about what the Eagles are possibly going to be doing Thursday and what to expect, what prospects to look around for. I know that Nick Sirianni, Howie Roseman, spoke with the media, I believe, yesterday. Obviously, some interesting tidbits that came from it. Nick Sirianni competed in a rock, paper, scissors contest with prospects to gauge their competitiveness. You could tell Nick Sirianni looked a lot more comfortable in front of the camera compared to his initial introduction presser that happened, about a month ago. He looked a lot more nervous at that time. I think that he looked a lot more loud, confident in his ability as a coach. He must have drank like 6 Red Bulls. But
he was going in that interview, man. He was.
I don't know how much bourbon they gave him, but he was going, full throttle. But listen, he looked a lot more confident. I know that obviously, I think that means a lot. I think to the Eagles fan base, how confident their coaching staff looks and their front office looks to the public eye. So we obviously all ripped him when he looked a little nervous and was shaking in his boots a little bit when they first introduced him. But I think he looked a lot better. I think he not only sounded a lot better, but he was talking a lot about what he wanted about like wide receiver prospects. I think he did a good idea of what the coaching staff's looking for in young players in this draft coming up on Thursday through Saturday. So a lot to take away from that. Also, I believe there's a report from Adam Capel who covers the Eagles on Inside the Birds. He said that on their last episode, I believe it was, they were looking to sell Brandon Brooks, the right guard, all-pro, who's obviously been injury riddled the past couple of seasons, but he's obviously very talented. They've been looking to maybe sell him off, and that Rashawn Slater, who's a tackle from, I believe, Northwestern, who's a mid-first round level talent, who's been slotting up people's boards for the past couple of months, is a name that the Eagles really like. I know that we saw the report earlier in the offseason that Penei Sewell was someone that Howie Roseman really loved. So I wouldn't be shocked if the Eagles here go offensive tackle. They like to build on the line. They like going tackle. They like going. There's another report that happened a couple weeks ago. I believe defensive tackle out of Alabama, Barrymore, I believe his last name. Mm-hmm. He was another name to be thrown around there. I think the Eagles fans would be very upset if they took a defensive tackle with how much money they have at that position. But I believe that this organization likes to build on the lines, which is offensive line, defensive line. So I know when you ask me that, buy or sell about the Eagles take a wide receiver, I really believe that they won't take a wide receiver in round 1. I think they're going to take either a tackle, a defensive end, or a corner. And whoever the best guy there at the board is on number 12, if they're still at 12, which we don't know yet, that could change Thursday night. But if they're still at 12 and they're about to pick it, I'm doubtful that it's going to be a wide receiver. I think it's going to be tackle, defensive end, or corner.
I mean, they proved that they like offensive linemen in the first round. I mean, they went and got, Dillard a few years ago. They got Leighton Johnson. So Sean Andrews back in 2004. So they've proven in the first round they do like to go after offensive tackles. And like you said, if they can get good value back here for Brooks, it makes sense for both sides. Maybe go to a more established team while the Eagles look like they might have a rebuilding year here. So if they did go with an offensive tackle like Slater, he really had a great year at Northwestern, put on a lot of weight and had a great season in terms of production and obviously proved that of elevating up a lot of draft boards. But, I think whatever this team can do, there's so many holes right now on this roster that if they take an O-lineman or if they take a cornerback or they take a wide receiver, it's really just filling the void that needs to be filled on this team moving forward. So they have the most picks in the draft this year. They have 11. There's no reason that they shouldn't find 2 or 3 starters in this draft, potentially for next year with how run down and older this roster is getting. So they need to hit, and I wouldn't be surprised if they acquire a little more draft capital leading up to the draft there.
You wouldn't be surprised the Eagles added more draft capital? What, for next year or this year?
No, I could see potentially if they could get, Gertz possibly trade for a third rounder on draft night or
Gertz will be an interesting piece to trade up to maybe move up to a spot. They already have 11 picks, which is a lot. But I don't see them using all 11 picks. They'll probably maybe use 8 or 9. So that's why I think that they're going to be prone to trade up at some point, whether that's in the first round, the second round, or the third round. I think they're going to trade up and try and get somebody that they really like.
Yeah, but I'm saying in terms of trading players, they might trade some guys off to acquire some talent or some draft capital, and then they may parlay those picks.
Yeah.
So like 6, 5, and 4, maybe parlay those for a third and try to move up. But I'm saying in terms of seeing players getting potentially traded for, a second or third round pick.
Yeah, Zach Gertz is an interesting name. It's been quiet ever since there's a little bit of rumors a couple months ago. Brandon Brooks, like we said, is an interesting name. So there's going to be some veteran guys that I think that could go and go to a different scenery, go to a team that's more ready to win, and make an impact there as well. So those are two interesting names I think you should watch out for on draft day.
Could you see possibly Lane Johnson going if they're in talks of trading Brooks?
Nah, I don't see Lane Johnson going.
No,
I think that let's say hypothetically they traded Brandon Brooks and took over Sean Slater. I think they put Slater at a guard spot because I think he has smaller arms, which doesn't mean I'm not saying he can't play tackle. I mean, just because he has small arms, but like usually when that happens with tackle prospects, they move him inside. But it's
that makes sense on there.
Yeah, and then what are you gonna do with Andre Dillard? Because I mean, at this point, I'd rather have Jordan Mailata playing left tackle than Andre Dillard.
I agree. Yeah,
don't know a lot about Dillard, and supposedly, I remember I was at WIP one day. I believe Mike Reese said this. He has somebody he knows within the organization that says he's just not good. Like he's not good enough. And I'm not saying give up on him. I mean, you might as well take him in training camp, see if he can play. But Jordan Mailata looked pretty good at left tackle. I think
he did. He was moving really well. He's just a big body, man. He can take up a lot of space, and being a rugby player, I think that only helps as how agile he is and how he can get in between some of those big blocks he was making in the San Francisco game where they looked really. I think that was like the only game this season they looked really good. Other than that. Terrible.
Yeah, I think that I don't think they're going wide receiver in the first round, and I think that if they use a pick like on a cornerback, which I'll be happy with if they get Surtain or if they took a J.C. Horn,
yeah,
or somebody like that, I'd be really excited about that because then you just plug him next, Darius Slay on the other side, and then you got your two corners, put Maddox in the slot, and then you have a pretty solid secondary going into the year with McLeod and Anthony Harris playing at safety. So if everything stays healthy. But if you take a tackle, then you got a pretty good offensive line. You could put, let's say you trade Brooks and you put, Rashawn Slater at right guard. And then you have Lane Johnson, Slater, Kelsey, Sayamalu, and then Mulatto or Dillard at the left tackle spot. So that's a pretty good route. Or they can go, defensive end, which I think is the unlikely out of the three I'm naming. But they get a Kwity Paye, or who's the guy out of Miami, Gregory Rousseau, somebody like that on the defense, and then maybe he can play, the other side on the second snaps with like Josh Sweat. So like now you'll have Barnett, Graham, Sweat, and him cycling them all four as edge rushers, which I knew Jim Schwartz liked that a lot, but it's interesting to see, does Jonathan Gannon like that a lot? Does he like linebackers? Like they acquired Eric Wilson. If Michael Parsons there, will they go get him? I know that there's a lot of different factors. There's a lot of unknown too because of the new coaching staff. Like it's just not. You would have a better idea of it if Doug Peterson was there, if Jim Schwartz was there, of what they would want in their offense or their defense. But as of right now, we just don't know. So it's going to set up for a pretty exciting Thursday.
Yeah, and I think some of the, like you were saying, some of the biggest factors that's a little tough here and going to the team. I mean, you look at defensive tackle, a lot of money tied up, and you still have Cox there, and you want to give him an opportunity. You have Barnett, you have Sweat, so you have guys like that who are on the defensive line. That could you go get a guy? Yeah, it doesn't really make sense. No, and then you look at the cornerback, and you need someone across from Slay to have a lockdown, not a lockdown secondary, but a decent secondary. So. And then you look at the wide receiver position. You got a lot of young guys there, but could you use a explosive player that could be available there, like a Waddle? You definitely could. So there's a variety of factors that you look at. If I have to cross one thing off the board, it's just there. In my mind, I just don't think a quarterback makes sense this year. I think next year you have an opportunity.
I think if a quarterback falls, man, and I don't think they will because I think it's a pretty good year for a quarterback. I really do.
I just want to see what Hurts has. I mean, that's really honestly how I feel this season. I don't have super high expectations for the Eagles. I think they have a lot of work to do to get back to a very competitive team. I think they need to shore up, obviously, the defensive side and that secondary a little bit. And I think that this year, if you can give Gertz an opportunity, see what he has, I mean, go out and with all these picks, acquire some other positions that really need help, rather than a guy that had some experience last year and is a young guy that you took last year.
Yeah, I think that we all know the report about, how he doesn't want to go up, try and get Zach Wilson, but he knew that he was not going to surpass or be able to get him for the Jets. It looks like the Jets are going to take him the whole time, so he ended up training back. So it's weird that they don't have. I mean, I understand there's probably not universal confidence within the Eagles building about Jalen Hurts, because it was obviously a very hot topic pick that they went go Jalen Hurts in round 2. But like, if you're gonna just dump Jalen Hurts after 4 games after spending a high value pick on him,
exactly,
then what was the point? So did you really like him that much? Like, who made the pick? Like, was it Howie? Okay, then why is Howie trying to go get Zach Wilson in the next year? And he only played 4 games, and I thought he was pretty good given the circumstances of what he was handed to. He had a bad offense. He didn't have any training camp, OTA, rookie camp. He was thrown into a really shitty situation with Carson Wentz and him bottling out here and just being in the middle of a quarterback controversy. And given the circumstances, I thought he played well against New Orleans. I thought he played really well against Arizona. Who he played the game after?
Washington.
Washington was the last game. I'm trying to think. Dallas. Yeah, he didn't play good in the Dallas game. And the Washington game, he was not that great either, but he still made some plays. But I still think there's a lot left to be desired from him. And I think that moving off him right now would just be, it would prove the organizational dysfunction that I think a lot of articles have been coming out about Howie Roseman and the Eagles front office. If you're just going to move off a guy after taking a second-round pick on him, in 2020, it's just dumb. I don't get it.
Yeah, I mean, I agree. I think you got to roll with Hurts this year. And just before we wrap up here, it's just some later round names that I think would make sense for this Eagles team. I mean, you got Terrence Marshall Jr., who's probably projected in the second round, potentially, could slide down to the late second round. I think he would be, if the Eagles, and like we're talking here, the Eagles have other priorities in front of the wide receiver position, and they do that in the draft. I think you could look down and find a guy like Marshall, late second round, who would be a good playmaker. You got Amari Rodgers from Clemson. You have Amon St. Brown from USC. So you have guys here in the second, third round that are good, skilled position guys, that, obviously are down there for some developmental reasons. But I think if you bring them on again with a young quarterback, with a rookie head coach, you build that camaraderie and the chemistry. I think, these guys could potentially turn into players for this Eagles team a little later. And also Elijah Moore, he's more of a premier guy. He's going to be a later first round. But again, if the Eagles can get some draft capital for a guy like Ertz or Brooks in the mid to late second round, or I'm sorry, the early to mid second round, then you could be potentially looking at an Elijah Moore.
Yeah, there's a lot of guys I think this could be available in the second, third round, and Howie's going to have to hit there too. That's the thing. You can't just hit in the round 1. You got to be able to hit in round 2, 3, and 4, and trying to get some guys who can come in and make an impact right away to some degree. So there's some interesting names there. And if they don't go wide receiver in round 1, if they don't go wide receiver in round 1, which I think they won't, I think that they're going to have to try and get some guys in round 2 and 3, like you just mentioned. That would be a good fit here, and it could come in and make an impact their rookie season as well. So, all right, that's going to wrap it up here on this edition. We're going to have live show Saturday, WCHE, Connor and Mark show from 10 a.m. to 11 a.m. Tune in then.
Rob Motti coming on.
Rob Motti, who covers the Eagles, the NFL for AP, also covers a little bit of the Phillies as well, but I think we're going to be mostly talking about Eagles, the NFL draft, the whole NFL, and what's going to be happening Thursday night, along with we'll probably take some callers too. It's really just going to be a football talk, man. I'm pumped for the draft. It's exciting. It's one of the most exciting times. The NFL does a great job with marketing this night, and it's a night of hope for a lot of organizations out there as they draft these young players and make and not hope for us.
A lot of hope for Eagles for sure. A
lot of hope for the 31 teams in the NFL and us. So it's going to be an exciting night, and I'm pumped to see what's going to happen round 1.
Yeah, man, I'm excited. Saturday's going to be a good day, and Rob's definitely going to bring some insight, so make sure to tune in Saturday, 10 to 11.
All right, make sure you follow us on Twitter and Instagram at Connor Mark Show to keep up with all our content. Also, subscribe to our YouTube page to watch more videos like this. So we'll see you guys again.